Yoseo, hello, and welcome back to the Alternate Point of View, where this week we are talking about Samantha Wall and Murder on Joliet Place. My name is Tracy Lee. I appreciate everyone who has been watching all of these parts and chapters about Samantha Wall and the murder on Joliet Place that occurred on October 21st, 2023, and why I think it is super important that we are highlighting this case because this case happened so quickly and it was an open and shut pretty much in a very short amount of time in actually less than 2 months. So it's quite disturbing to me that a case, unless you're just caught red-handed in Detroit, a murder case of this magnitude that hit national news, international news in the height of the Hamas-Israel attack could possibly be solved this quickly in Detroit, where usually they have a very high murder rate and a very low murder solve rate, could be solved this quickly. But somehow, some way, it was. And also, murder that had the involvement of the state police, the FBI, and everyone under the sun that could possibly be involved. But why would they? Why would they be so involved? Let me tell you why. I'm going to share with you the reason why this case got so much national attention and got so much reason for people to look into it so quickly and want it to be open and shut so quickly. And this is the reason why. Samantha Wall. Let me introduce you to Samantha, and said by the very people who knew her the best. This is Samantha Wall, this beautiful young lady right here, and this is her obituary. Remember, she was killed on October 21st, 2023. Her service was October 22nd, 2023 at 3 p.m. at Hebrew Memorial Chapel. And this is what they said about Samantha Sam Wall, who tragically died on October 21st, 2023 in Detroit, Michigan. She was a cherished daughter of Doctors Margot and Douglas Wall, dearest sister to Doctors Monica Wall Rosen and brother-in-law Ben, and beloved aunt to Solomon, Gabriel, Gavi, and Mira. She was born and raised in Metro Detroit, graduated from the University of Michigan. While Sam was a traveler and loved to explore the world, she spent her life in and around the Detroit area. There was no one who loved the city of Detroit more. She was fiercely passionate about the cultural vibrancy of Detroit, including the visual arts. At heart, Samantha was an artist and a lover of all forms of art. She appreciated music, theater, opera, museums, and frequently sought to bring artists of all kinds together in unique ways. She loved being outside, and nature was her happy place, whether she was exploring a new park or being out in the mountains or on a hiking trail. She was heavily involved in local, state, and national politics, serving on the campaigns of Elisa Slotkin, U.S. Representative, Dana Nessel, Michigan Attorney General, and Stephanie Chang, State Senator. Samantha had a deep passion for the city of Detroit. Most recently, she served as president of the Isaac Agree Downtown Synagogue, a revitalized congregation in the heart of Detroit, and helped lead its fundraising campaign and grand reopening that occurred just 2 months ago. She was involved with many interfaith organizations in the Detroit area and was the embodiment of Tikkun Olam, making the world a better place and pursuing justice for all. Most importantly, Samantha was a ray of sunshine to all who knew her. She was the light in any room because of her beautiful smile and warmth. To her family, she was Aunt Sam, always present in all the right ways, being a source of comfort, love, and joy for her niece and nephews. To her friends, she was Sam, the greatest friend anyone ever could hope for to have in life, because she was unfailing in her commitment to living in the moment and always saw the good in everyone she met. She had unbridled joy and an infectious laugh. She had the most incredible compassion. Most importantly, she lived to love and loved to live. Samantha will always be remembered for her tireless activism and for her passion to make the world a better place. She was an angel, and there was truly no one kinder. That being said, all of that sounds absolutely amazing, because that sounds like someone you would want to know, right? And what does this say? She was the embodiment of Tikkun Olam. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, I am so sorry if I'm being offensive. Making the world a better place and pursuing justice for all. And she had the most incredible compassion. Most importantly, she lived to love and loved to live. And her commitment to living in the moment and always saw the good in everyone. And that is exactly what one of her friends said to me about her, was that she would have welcomed someone, if it were Michael, like Michael, into her home and been like, come on in, sit down, let's have something to drink, let's chat. She would have not at any moment been like, what are you doing here? And she would have just been like, hey, let's sit down. What do you need? So I think it's odd. This is where my tinfoil hat is going to come in. Someone as wonderful as Samantha would be taken away by someone who did not know her, had no connection to her, someone who was just walking down the streets of Detroit on that night, and that they put together in a video, strung together cell phone data, and decided that this was the person, even though in the very beginning they already had a suspect. Now, the reason why I say get ready for the tinfoil hat is because I want to talk about the synagogue itself. Okay? Now, let's talk about the history of Isaac Agree. Now, the synagogue itself is, first of all, the synagogue itself, before Samantha took it over, was started in 1921 by Nathan and Charles Agree. And it was named after their father, Isaac Agree. And it started as not its own synagogue. It was in actual a couple of several different buildings before they actually purchased this old department store, which became the downtown synagogue in Detroit. And it is the only synagogue left in Detroit, freestanding, that is left in Detroit. Now, it has fallen on hard times. Back in the day, apparently there was a huge Jewish population, and the Isaac Agree Synagogue was a big synagogue. It had a lot of congregation, a lot of families. But now there wasn't a big congregation. And actually COVID hit, and it really, really disintegrated the congregation. So here we go into what happened to Isaac Agree. So this is the last freestanding, this is in 2022. The last freestanding synagogue in Detroit is growing fast, okay, and set for a $5 million renovation. Until recently, this is in 2022, the 100-year-old Isaac Agree downtown synagogue was too small to afford a rabbi or staff. Now, this isn't a huge building in downtown Detroit, by the way. Now, this is when Samantha took over as president, is in 2022. So when Jay Hack and his wife moved to a long blighted but fast revitalizing section of Detroit 10 years ago, they joined the Isaac Agree downtown synagogue. It's the last freestanding shul in the city and happens to be named for his great-great-grandfather. The building, with its two bold rows of brightly colored glass windows, both charmed and repelled them. The first services we went to, I brought my oldest son, and he was literally crawling on the floor, and we had to guide him away from broken glass, said Hack, a 45-year-old financial planner who grew up in Detroit suburbs. That's where all the Jewish people went, was to the suburbs. So this is why this synagogue turned out like this. So the synagogue just kind of grew to shambles. But now, Hack and the fast-growing congregation are weeks away from the start of a $5 million renovation of Isaac Agree, necessitated by a sharp recent influx of young Jewish residents and their growing families. Construction is set to begin in early June on the synagogue, which was once one of the least 40 in Detroit, before a mass mid-century exodus to the suburbs doomed them. The plan is to transform it from a decrepit structure into a gleaming modern hub of Jewish life in southeastern Michigan, a stunning turnaround for a 100-year-old congregation too small to afford a rabbi or staff just a few years ago. It's a rare but unheard of renaissance for an urban synagogue. In Washington, D.C., one sold to a church mid-century became part of the Center City's renewal in 2004, when it was rededicated as the 6th and one historic synagogue. After the work is completed, several major Jewish groups in the Metro Detroit region are expected to rent workspace in the building as they reestablish themselves in the city after decades in the suburbs. They'll be joining a reverse migration that has transformed much of Detroit. Around Isaac Agree, in the past 10 years, scores of companies have located or relocated tens of thousands of finance and tech jobs to the city. Simultaneously, developers have renovated or converted dozens of apartment buildings for growing workforce of young professionals. So this is what they plan for Isaac Agree to look like when they are done. These will be office spaces. They're actually going to be having a block party next month in honor of Samantha, where the rooftop will be done, where they're going to plan on having weddings. This is going to be this is the church part, I believe. I'm not really sure, but they're going to have the church, the synagogue area. They've really done, the grand reopening was done literally 2 months before Samantha died. So they got all the funding they needed. Samantha was a huge part of that. Then they did the grand reopening, in August of 2023. Then Hamas attacked Israel October 7th, 2023. And then 2 weeks later, conveniently, after, I'm not saying it had anything to do with Hamas and Israel, but it was a convenient time for Samantha to be attacked, to kind of make it look like it had something to do with that. Or could it have had something to do with the fact that all of this work had been done? Samantha was a huge part of the donations. She was very big into politics. Could it have anything to do with this? Is it a coincidence that the grand reopening happened and now this synagogue is bringing in millions and millions of dollars? And I mean millions. Now they have a this new rabbi. They haven't been able to have a rabbi in like 16 years. That's how long they've gone without a rabbi. This ambitious plan is going to call for a social hall and catering area, office space on the 3rd and 4th floors, which are currently condemned and unusable. That's in 2022. And a rooftop space for weddings and other events. The refurbishment will accommodate a congregation that grew from fewer than 100 households a decade ago to more than 400 now, and from just 10 children under 18 to more than 100. While Silverman has only hosted 2 B'nai mitzvahs so far in her 6-year tenure, the temple's new religious school already has 10 enrollees. So they're holding bar mitzvahs. They had a bar mitzvah the day after Samantha died, actually. They have donors that are Michigan-based Jewish-oriented groups including the William Davidson Foundation, the Gilbert Family Foundation, the Fisher Foundation, the Kahn Foundation, lots of big name foundations in Detroit, okay? And they're asking for larger gifts. These are gifts. They're doing all kinds of huge sponsors, okay? This is huge, you guys, huge. This is their rooftop plan. This is what they're going to be doing next month in honor of Samantha. I believe they're going to name it after her. Also, ironically, because she was coming home from a wedding. So we started to gather more support to fulfill a bigger vision so that we could be a synagogue and also a hub for Jewish life, Jewish organizations, community organizations, and the city itself, Wall said. The cost increases are making the effort more expensive and may take more time, she said, but the congregation is buoyed by the enthusiasm from the Jewish community and beyond the city. The building itself is really special and unique place, holds a lot of meaning and memory, she said. This is all from Samantha Wall. She said this in the 2022 article. So it's I just want to say that it's strange. It's ironic that she raised and was a huge part of raising all of these millions of dollars that were coming through for Samantha and this synagogue. And yet she had the grand reopening of this synagogue 2 months before her death. And then you're going to have Hamas hit Israel on October 7th, 2023. And 2 weeks later, you're going to have the president in a major city in the United States murdered. It sounds odd, but is it? There are a lot of crazy theories you could put out there. Now, there has been an ex-boyfriend who has turned himself in and redacted his confession that he killed Samantha, and he outsmarted the police, and he was having a panic attack, an anxiety attack, a manic attack, or whatever you want to call it. But the fact of the matter is maybe he did, and he was trying to make it look like an anti-Semitic hate crime, or maybe it actually could have been someone else that she knew, because she did leave her doors unlocked, and she also had an extra key that she had people have a code to the key box to get into her house, and that key was also found on the floor of her townhome. It could have been someone that was upset with her because maybe they didn't want things to be happening the way they were happening with this synagogue becoming so big and taking over downtown Detroit. We all know what happens when rich white people come in and take over things and push other people who can't afford it out. Not all of the, people down there, whether they be black, white, brown, purple, green, whatever, are able to afford what this synagogue was bringing in. So maybe some people didn't agree with Isaac Agree Synagogue. Okay. Maybe they didn't agree that this synagogue, who was charging, by the way, they charge for a membership, basically. I was not aware that some churches charge to be a member of their church. I know that when I grew up, you gave a tithe, but you didn't have to pay to go to church. But apparently in this type of church, you pay a membership fee. And not only do you pay a membership fee, but you are also, having these huge donors come in who are, giving money to revitalize and rebuild a condemned building. Now, this was a condemned building, but they revitalized it and they brought it back. So what if Samantha raised all this money to build this synagogue back up, but then when there's money and power, there's also things that need to be done that may not be on the up and up. Maybe there's requests. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. I gave you this money to do this. Now you need to do this. Maybe Samantha needed to, even though she was a very open-minded person, maybe she did love everybody and saw the good side of everything. Maybe there were things that she wasn't willing to break her moral code for. Maybe she did have a limit. Maybe she was like, yeah, it doesn't seem right. Now, is it a sloppy killing? Yeah, but it wasn't so sloppy that they left any evidence behind. I can tell you that, because if they did, they hid that very well. There's no fingerprints, according to the police. There's no footprints, according to the police. There's no hair fibers, according to the police. There's nothing to show anything other than the fact that there's hers and some other unknown contributor at the scene, possibly several other unknown contributors, but not the defendant in the courtroom. So, who did this? Could it be because Samantha had possibly said no to the wrong person? Could it be she was too far up in the echelon in this synagogue? And maybe she had raised so much money with maybe some unscrupulous people who didn't have the best intentions of the synagogue in Detroit in mind, the way Samantha thought they did. And maybe, conspiracy theory thinking, maybe someone decided they needed a new person to take over that did agree with Isaac Agree Synagogue. Because I know one thing, when I read her obituary and it talks about how Samantha literally, you know how they say people light up a room and all of those things, but it does say Samantha was a ray of sunshine who knew, to all who knew her, she was the light in any room because of her beautiful smile and her warmth. That's what they said. And they paint her to be literally, basically, just like the perfect person. She basically, if this has anything to do with the Isaac Agree Synagogue and the rebuilding of the synagogue, I would dare say that, I would dare say that the people who are in the positions of power there might have thought that she was not on the same page as their position of power. Maybe they felt that she didn't meet their needs. I know. So see, now they have Samantha Loved books. Old books, new books, books, used books, books on Judaism, Jews, books on politics, books on social justice, see, books on feminism, books on politics, books on urban affairs, books on religions. So Samantha loves books. There's no such thing as a Jewish religion. They have all kinds of pictures here of their events. This is a big deal. They're very heavy into the city. So, rebirth of Detroit. There's Samantha. So this is great. This is what they want you to see, is that, their values, action, humility, place-based, courage to learn and have dialogue, diversity and inclusion, kindness and compassion, integrating ritual and action. These are all of the foundations that are supporting them. So I also looked up who is on their board. So their board of directors now is different, of course. And then their staff. She became the rabbi in 2016. They hadn't had a rabbi in I think it was like 16 years or something like that. It was a very, very long time before they even had a rabbi. So this is, I'm just curious. There's a lot of women, woman, one dude. Everybody's female. So as you can see, that it looks like Isaac Agree is basically a lot of females. Samantha was obviously all about female empowerment, but there's something about this synagogue going from shambles, from basically falling apart. Something. Money talks is all I can say. Money talks. Jeff Herbstman confessed to killing her. He is out and goes home. No more nothing. Does not get followed like Michael Jackson Bolanos. Does not get his car impounded like Michael Jackson Bolanos, which, by the way, who doesn't have his car still. He doesn't get a video made of him with new timestamps on it. He doesn't get all of these things done to him. He doesn't get his door busted in like Michael Jackson Bolanos. He does have a search warrant done, but he doesn't get his house torn upside down and inside out. He doesn't get all those things done. His cameras are taken down outside of his house, but they're not like torn down or anything like that. They're taken down. But he doesn't have all of these things that are just like brutally done to him. He's not accused of anything. He's not handcuffed. He's not thrown out pictures and, he actually confessed, and he doesn't get treated the way Michael Jackson Bolanos was treated. Samantha was huge, deeply delved in, heels, toes, everything, into downtown Detroit, into the revitalization of downtown Detroit. And I'm talking about the revitalization in ways that she thought was doing good for the city of Detroit. And when you think you're doing good for the city, it's kind of like here in Austin. They think they're doing good by building homes, apartments, all this kind of jazz, but it's really just benefiting people with money. It's not benefiting the people that don't have money. It's not benefiting people who don't have the high-tech jobs and the six-figure incomes and all of that. It is revitalizing the city, but it's only bringing in people that have the money to afford to live in the city. So when you're pushing people out to bring the rich people in, which is what is happening in Detroit, it's affordable for the kind of upper middle class to live in Detroit, but it's still not affordable for the people, the average Joe, to live in Detroit. They're still struggling to get by. They can't afford to pay for a membership at the Isaac Agree Synagogue. So I'm just saying, if the money is talking, which it did for Jeff, and it's doing it for Isaac Agree Synagogue, because it's not welcome all, welcome everyone, as they make it look like in their pictures, and they make it look like in their action statement and all of this jazz. Yes, you're welcome if you can pay. You're welcome if you have money. And I don't believe that is where Samantha was at. I don't believe Samantha was at, yes, everyone is welcome as long as they have the money. I think Samantha was on a different page. I'm not saying that anyone at Isaac Agree had anything to do with her death. I'm just saying Samantha was quite possibly not on the same page. She did collect a lot of money, though, but I think she had her limits. But that's tinfoil hat thoughts. And I could be way off. It could still be the ex-boyfriend. It could be one of the other friends that her gay best friend threw under the bus. It could be the gay best friend. It could be anyone. And Michael could still be a person of interest, but should he be on trial? I'm just putting a lot of this out there for people to think. Samantha was well loved, but with being well loved, with power, with presence, also comes enemies. Whether you think so or not, there's always someone out there that is jealous of your stature. Somebody is jealous. There's someone out there who wants to be you. And there's someone out there who wanted to be Samantha. And could it be the best friend who was on the stand with the pursed lips and couldn't wait to tell all of her business? Could it be that guy? And now he's got a lot of attention, right? I mean, he got to be on the stand for like 2 days. Now he's got lots of attention. What about the guy, Brett Farmer? He's in the galley. He's with the family. He's with everyone. Now he's got attention. He's got people surrounding him. No one even knew who that dude was until now. Now the entire Jewish community in downtown Detroit is wrapping their arms around each other and around people that they didn't even know probably existed until Samantha died. It's just strange. Just food for thought. There are people who do things and do crazy things for attention and to be noticed. Would they go so far? Some would say they would. I mean, there are people that have done crazier things for attention. I don't know. It just seems odd. If you want to go by a timeline, as the prosecution says, go by a timeline. If you want to go by a timeline, let's go by a timeline. Samantha became the president of the synagogue in 2022. She raised all this money to get the synagogue off the ground and back up and running and looking good aesthetically, right? To make it into a workspace and a place for people to join together and be a synagogue again. And she did that. She did a grand reopening in August of 2023. 2 months later, lo and behold, Hamas attacks Israel. And lo and behold, 2 weeks after that, Samantha is killed. And wham. The synagogue is still thriving and thriving more without her. Even more. The synagogue is using Samantha, putting her pictures on their page, and now they're having a block party in her honor next month because they're finishing, guess what? The rooftop. So they are riding high on this Samantha wave. I'm just saying, I don't know. There may be something to it. There may not be. But there are plenty of theories out there. There is the ex-boyfriend. There's the many friends that the gay best friend threw up under the bus. There's the gay best friend. There is possibly someone who was jealous of her, someone who is in a higher power, someone who had more money, someone something. But all I can tell you is Isaac Agree Synagogue was condemned. The building was ready to be either torn down, sold, whatever, until Samantha came along. And now Samantha, they're still riding the Samantha wave. But no national attention on her trial. But Detroit, the Jewish community in Detroit, is still reaping the wonderful, wonderful everything, generosity that Samantha gave to that synagogue and the Jewish community. But no one else is talking about it. So I just find it strange. It's just food for thought. You can take off your tinfoil hat now if you want to. But I have several other theories that I think, but I just find it very, very odd that this synagogue has been around for the idea of the synagogue, and then it's been around for 100 years. It was on its last leg. Samantha comes along, and yeah, it has now become a place for everyone to go. It has over 400 plus families now. And it is all thanks to Samantha. A lot of huge thanks to Samantha. She had a lot to do with that. And I believe that they are still riding the Samantha wave. And they will continue to do so until they can't anymore. And we'll see what happens to Detroit. We'll see if this actually is working. The crime has gone down in Detroit. And I would guess that you could owe that a lot to what they've done to the city of Detroit. The shaping that they've done, the revitalizing, if you want to call it that. But they have brought a lot of money into Detroit. So I think it's a little weird. It's a little fishy. But there's a lot of things that could be said for the timing of all of this. If we're going off of timing, Hamas did invade Israel on October 7th. October 21st, Samantha Wall was brutally killed in her townhome and found outside on the sidewalk. And it could have been that was great timing for the person who wanted to do this. I believe it was someone that knew her townhome, was able to get into her townhome with no problem because it was someone that she knew. I believe it was someone that had a disagreement with her. I believe it was a crime of passion. I don't believe that it's any of the knives, obviously, because they only checked pocket knives. I believe it was an actual either kitchen knife of some sort. The knife was very telltale. It had a nick in it. It was a dull kind of knife, according to one of the witnesses. So I believe that Samantha was killed by someone that she knew, someone she was familiar with, and someone who was familiar with her home and familiar with her. And I believe that there was a discussion had prior to, and I believe that whether it be to do with the synagogue or to do with a relationship, but regardless, I believe that there is more to the story about Samantha Wall and her death than meets the eye. And it can be a conspiracy. It can go that far, or it can just be as far as a jealous friend or jealous ex or jealous possible boyfriend. I don't know. But I don't believe it is Michael Jackson Bolanos. And I believe, based off what her obituary said, that she would be looking for justice. So, again, think about these things. Think about the history of Isaac Agree Synagogue. Think about how far they fought, how long they were down to nothing. COVID happened. It's amazing they survived COVID. And then they get Samantha in there, who's obviously a vibrant, cheerful person. She's worked on campaigns. She has connections. She uses those connections. She gets a lot of money in there. And then wham, after the money comes pouring in, after they get done what they get done, something happens. Something happens after that grand reopening. And Hamas hitting Israel couldn't have happened at a better time to do what got done to Samantha, is all I'm saying. If you want to look at timing, let's look at timing. So I appreciate everyone watching. Please like, subscribe, share. It helps the algorithm. It helps this channel. It helps keep eyes on this case. There will be more to come. So please keep watching. I want to make sure that we are paying tribute to Samantha Wall. She worked very hard for the synagogue. I pray and hope that it wasn't anything to do with the synagogue or anything to do with the politics. I just hope and pray it wasn't anything nefarious like that. I hope and pray it wasn't anything anti-Semitic. I hate that it was such a brutal crime to begin with, but I hope and pray that we find the right person who did this. And as I stated in past videos, the chief of police in Detroit felt at the very, very beginning that they had a suspect, and there was a relationship between that suspect and Samantha. And whether it be through the synagogue, personal relationship, or a business relationship, there was a relationship. So I thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, and share. Become a member if you like. Leave a super chat. Whatever you would like to do, I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much again. 감사합니다.